Didn't see you there. Welcome to week 2 of Plants with Miss Probst. Today, I am going to show you what I am doing with the top of a regular old pineapple. Come on. So what I was just working on was getting my soil ready and wet again so that I can work on planting my pineapple top. What does that mean? Well, a couple weeks ago, Miss Probst harvested her pineapple plant that has been growing for 3 years. Then I made a wonderful pineapple upside down cake with that pineapple, and I saved the top of the pineapple. And that's because if you cut off the pineapple fruit from your pineapple and then you get rid of some of the leaves that are around the top of the plant and you stick some toothpicks on the side, you can stick it over a glass of water inside of your house for about a month, and these long, beautiful pineapple roots will form, and then it can get started into growing a second pineapple plant. So it's kind of like recycling. You can never get rid of that original pineapple because you can always grow more. So today I'm going to get that started in my little pot, and we're going to check on our seeds, and I'm going to start propagating a succulent for next week's video. So, as I showed you, the pineapple plant has these long roots from sitting in just a glass of water for about a month. These roots are going to help form a new pineapple plant, and then once it grows up, and out, a pineapple in about 3 years will come from the middle of the pineapple top. And then a new pineapple will come out. And then once I eat that pineapple, I can plant the top of that one as well. So I'm going to put my small pineapple in a small pot first, and that is going to help it not get so overwhelmed with such a large pot. Because when you first plant plants, you want to put them in a smaller pot first, and as they get bigger, you put them into a bigger pot, much like crabs and sea snails and snails in general. When snails get their shells, they're very small, and then as they grow, they need a bigger shell to keep growing. But if you were to put that giant shell on a snail when they were really little, then they might not have enough body to go inside that shell, and then they'll just be too loose, right? Too big, too small, just right. So we're gonna start with too small, well, not too small, but small. Then we're gonna move into a medium pot, something like this, once it is done growing to that point. And then it's gonna go to the really large pot that I had my other pineapple in. This was the really big pot that I had my 3-year-old pineapple in. So once it gets to the point where it can go into this pot, I will give it a nice scrub, a nice clean down, and then I will plant it in this. Now, the pineapple plant that I had for 3 years, because it had fruited, pineapples only fruit once. They do not fruit again, which means they will only make 1 pineapple every 3 years. That's a little bit crazy. So I ended up having to throw that old pineapple plant away or compost it into my yard bin, and let me go see if it's still there. So before I got rid of my big pineapple plant, it was in this big purple pot, and it's a little bit scrunched up now, obviously because I did cut it up and I cut off the pointy ends because they get very sharp and pointy at the end of the, what would you call this, a pineapple leaf. And they actually have these small little thorns that I'll give you a close-up on that help protect it from predators while it's growing fruit. But you can see how big this pineapple plant once was just by looking at the pot. Very big pineapple plant, and that's with most of the ends cut off. So, and then where the pineapple came from, dirt, was that stem right there. Okay, so it's on the table so I can point at it. This stem right here. And that is where, and it came from the center of the plant, and a little pineapple came out of it. Now, this is starting its journey of decomposing because I'm not watering it anymore. I stuck it with a bunch of other decomposing plants so that I can use it in my soil for future plants. Let's kind of dissect this pineapple plant so I can show you the thorns that it has on its leaves to protect it from predators. So I just took my plant scissors to cut off a little piece of one of its leaves, and if you look very closely, it has a lot of these very sharp, pointy thorns on the side, and Miss Probst has definitely gotten a number of these stuck in her skin. They do come out, they're like splinters, so if you just wait a little while, they'll slowly migrate out of your hands or arms or legs or whatever you get these stuck in. But I wouldn't recommend it because it hurts really bad. So we want to be careful whenever handling a pineapple plant that we don't touch these sharp, pointy things. Usually, as my plant is growing, I'll inspect the leaves one at a time. I'll take my plant scissors and I'll just start cutting off the little thorns. That way I won't hurt myself when I'm trying to take care of my pineapple. And voila, it's a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it's going to be better when handling my pineapple plant. All right, so with planting my new pineapple top, what I want to do is continue making sure that the soil that I'm going to use is nice and wet. And I can use, like I did my last video, my watering can, or I can just use a spray bottle full of water to spray the inside of my soil and then kind of mix it around. This needs a lot of water, so I'm gonna get my watering can. While I'm mixing this up, let's check on our seeds from last week. So I moved the sunflower seeds over here because with the shelf that I had put them on last week was actually getting a lot of sun in the morning. So this part of my patio does not get that much sun all day long. So I put them here instead. And I think that that first week of being on that shelf did not allow them to grow very much because none of them have sprouted yet. But that is okay. That also means that I want to take a moment during this video to start a new experiment with planting our seeds and see if we can plant them directly into this dirt and see if they'll sprout any faster than inside of here. Let's try it out. So I'm going to keep these seeds over here because they have been working for a week. I'm also going to plant my giant hybrid and see if maybe these seeds have just been exposed and in the bag for too long, because I have had these for over a year. I've also had these for over a year, but let's see if this makes any difference. I also thought that we would have some fun in trying out and planting some wildflower seeds. We're just going to use this area here because when I water this plant, the water actually drifts down from here and waters this area. So I figure that might be helpful in trying to grow our seeds this time. So I'm going to take a couple of our sunflower seeds from last week. And I'm just going to, like I said, just poke them in there. Now these, obviously, we can do more than one because it's an open thing, an open container. But I'm still going to make sure that there's plenty of room between them so that if they do sprout, I can get them out pretty easily without breaking them. So I just planted 4 of those. I'm gonna plant 4 of these. If I have that many, I have 5. These ones look a little bit different. They're white with a little bit of gray or brown splotches on the side, and they look pretty dry, so hopefully they do something. So I'm gonna plant these in the middle. And I'm gonna save that last one. And then over here, I'm gonna put some of our wildflower seeds and just see if they work. Because we are in springtime, even though the weather is back and forth between winter and summer. So wildflower seeds are just kind of that, they're wildflowers. So when they sell these pack of seeds, it's a meadow mixture, which means that there's a lot of different kinds of seeds that plant different kinds of flowers. And for these, I'm probably gonna take a little bit and put it back in the bag, but I'm just gonna kind of scatter them on the soil and water them and cover them with a little bit more dirt. Now for this, because especially these wildflower seeds are loose on top of the soil, I'm just gonna actually spray. Then I'm gonna take some of my dirt that I mixed up last week that's still a little bit moist, hopefully we'll see some results. All right, I think we're ready. So I am done mixing the soil and making it nice and wet again. So I am going to take my shovel, get a nice big scoop and put it at the bottom of my pot. And then I'm going to take another nice big scoop and put it at the bottom, but I'm going to use my shovel to kind of push it to the walls of my pot. That way there's a nice big hole where we can put this pineapple plant in the roots. I'm going to take my toothpicks out because it does not need to be put in there with toothpicks. And what's great about this little pot is that it does not have holes at the bottom, so it will be getting very moisturized, just like this cup of water. Plenty of water in there so it can keep growing roots. I'm going to take my soil. While I'm holding it with one hand, I'm going to take my soil. I'm going to kind of put it in there at an angle. Switch. My aloe is poking me in the arm. Put it in at the other angle. That way there's a lot of soil in there. Now it can sit nicely without me holding it. I'm going to take this soil and keep going, just kind of pushing it out of the way. If I get a little bit of dirt inside of the pineapple leaves, it's okay. It'll wash down once I water it. And then once I have a good amount of soil, I'm going to use my fingers and carefully push, because even the little ones have little thorns. I'm going to carefully push the soil just to condense it and keep the pineapple top in place. And in doing that, now I see I'm going to need more soil. Now my pineapple top is safely secured inside of the little pot. It's a little bit crooked. That's okay. I'm going to plant it into a medium pot once it grows anyway. Now, pineapple plants, when they are planted and in soil, they need a lot of sunlight. So I'm going to put it right next to my snake plant where it can get plenty of light from the sun in the morning and from our growing light in the afternoon. Now this part of my patio gets a lot of good sunlight in the afternoon, but we also have a growing light, which is where you see the shadows from. Oh, let me point to it. You see the growing light right there? It hangs from the ceiling because right now it is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and there's no sun. So we have a growing light to help us here. I'm going to actually fix this to go right here where it gets plenty of sun, where it gets plenty of light from the sun when it comes through the screen and from our growing light. Now, just like with everything else, once we're done working, we have to clean up after ourselves, and I have a lot to do. Now let's start with our succulents. We are at the end of the video, and I have planted my pineapple. Great. I can't wait to see that pineapple get bigger and bigger. We won't have enough time to cover during this Plants with Miss Probst series, because that takes 3 years for a pineapple to grow fully. But what doesn't take 3 years is propagating succulents, and I want to give you a little preview of what we are going to do. When we have succulents that we want to propagate, we can take off one of the leaves on the succulent, and then if we lay it in some moist dirt, it starts growing roots, and then it can become a new succulent. Let's see it in a different stage. This was a succulent leaf that had sprouted roots and has been sitting in the soil for a very long time now. And because it's been doing that, it actually had time to propagate with the roots, and it turned into a new succulent. This one is pretty big, and it's basically ready for me to plant inside my succulent pot. But next week we're gonna do a lot of work with replanting succulents just for fun. So this will probably go into next week's video of watching me fix my succulents. So we are gonna add a new leaf over here to start the propagation process. All right, we are over here at my succulents, and it is time to pick a leaf off of one of my succulents to start the propagation. Now, just like seeds, not all of them are going to do what you want them to do. So I'm going to actually take 4 leaves off of the same or different succulents, just so that they can all be over there at the same time. So I'm going to take a leaf from this one, because this one is one of my favorite succulents. And in order to do that, I'm just gonna kind of go back and forth until it pops off. Ta-da! And then I have a lot of these, but you can always have more. So I'm gonna take a leaf off here. That one's not too healthy. It's a little bit squishy, so I'm gonna get one that's more firm. Let's try this one out. This one's doing really well. It's also trying to root to the bottom, if you can see that. Sometimes I can see that. They kind of have their mind of their own. So I'm gonna take one of these leaves as well. So I have 4 different succulent leaves. Let's go put them at the back and start spraying with them with some water on the moist soil so that they can start rooting. So I'm just gonna clear out some of these that have been here for a little while, just so I have room, break up some of these clumps of dirt that I find here. This one didn't do so well. Some of them propagate and some of them don't. So I'm gonna lay my leaves right here on top of the dirt. I'm gonna put these 2 right next to each other because they're from the same plant. I'm gonna take my spray bottle again, and I'm going to make sure that the soil is wet, and I'm gonna spray my other propagated succulents as well so they can keep growing for next week when I put them in the pot. Give everything a good once over. And we'll check on those next week. That was a lot of work, and it's really hot outside. But before I have a popsicle, I have to wash my hands. They are dirty and I can feel it. So remember what I said last week for the hand washing procedure. Done. Bye. See you next week.